Oh, welcome into all our dads out there and all our moms. You are listening to episode 126 of the Fade You podcast. Make sure you're giving us a follow on Twitter at Fade You Sports. Give us a follow there. Tell your friends. Even if you have friends who are dead, just have everybody follow us. Have everybody subscribe to the pod. We're still putting out some pods here. And we got some exciting stuff coming up. My name is Matthew James, and on tonight's pod, I've got Kmart, I've got Chris Duke, I've got the Bucket Boy. We've got a trip coming up, but we wanted to make time to check in with everybody now that brackets are out and people can make their picks. And we're going to talk a little college basketball. So one thing we didn't want to do on this show, Kyle, you can kind of speak to this. We are not going to give out picks and plays. We're just going to talk about how we approach betting the tournament and hopefully some lessons that people can take and then make their own picks.
Yeah. I mean, it's always fun to, degen, play with your heart. But I mean, the more you kind of get into everything, it's true what they say about, the smart better is, they play numbers, not teams. So I've essentially created a system that I try to perfect every year. Try to get it better by adding, another algorithm to it. So, I mean, it's already tipping the scales on a couple plays for me, this year, but, I just can't emphasize enough, don't just think how you feel a game's going to be played. There's going to be angles, there's going to be narratives, but it's truly, whether you like to look at, specific matchups they've had earlier in the year relative to, similar opponents that they've played. But, you take San Francisco, for instance, the Dons, I'm sure a lot of the East Coast, people haven't, seen too much of them. They see Murray State, at 30-2, but then you have, kind of the trendy darling with, our South Dakota State Jackrabbits, and that's getting a lot of love right now. So, I definitely say just be careful, with how you approach it, but definitely consistency is key. Whether you're like me and occasionally want to be a homer, that's fine. Just don't go crazy, have fun with it, and really try to get the best number. You'll see a lot of the plays I post. I do a lot of money lines for, even plus money, because as I've got older and I think a little better at this, I really hate laying juice. So sometimes I'll take the L like I did on Long Beach State the other night, but in the long run, I actually don't lose as much by doing that way.
He's on Twitter at Kmarts_angles. Neil, do you want to talk for a second about how betting the tournament is very different than filling out a bracket?
Oh, it's night and day, right? I mean, if you're just filling out a bracket and you're just, picking sides, it's easy to run down the line and take, number one seeds all the way down, or, maybe even less so, just taking, the 5 team against the 12, as we know, that's only a 66% winner. When you get lines that are, Duke 18.5 against Cal State Fullerton, who beat Kyle's Long Beach State team, my alma mater there, no big deal. But you're talking about, 18 to 20, I think there's a 23-point spread in some of these, right? So it's completely different in every possible way. And it's hard enough to pick a bracket, right? I mean, we'll be lucky if we get through the first round and there'll be a perfect, maybe handful of perfect brackets, in the world. And so you can only imagine if you're, throwing in spreads on that one. It's just an added wrinkle.
Yeah, with the brackets, I mean, everybody's got their own group that you're going to Venmo someone $20 and you're in a bracket contest with 60 people. And there's not really a way that you can do better than, fuck, people win those just picking mascots they think are cute animals and shit. So, good luck with your brackets, but we're going to try to win some money betting games. Chris, can you think back to when you first started betting on March Madness and just some of the mistakes people make betting this stuff? And this is a time of year where the books do well, and there are reasons for that. So can you think back, way back to, I don't know if it was pre or post mugshot when you started betting on college basketball. Can you recall some of the early mistakes from your youth?
Early mistakes is probably taking the so-called easy side. Like we looked at, finally Den regressed the last few days. He went, I think 3-7 on one of the days. And because he was just taking the so-called easy side, Davidson and the Dukes and all these teams that should win, right? They're only laying 3 or 4 free money, right? So just got to look at ones that if the Vegas puts a line out, you and I talked about this the other day, we're like those ones that are in those 3 to 7 range where it looks like people will just money line them, right? Vegas makes their money on the teasers and the parlays and all those that you think are free money. Those are the penny slots for them. So just be careful. If it smells, do what we do and take the shit. And sometimes you'll step in it, but sometimes, like Dave says, God bless them, consigliere, sometimes you're going to smell like Victoria's Secret.
Or something. I don't know.
Like Giselle, but I guess Tom doesn't even like Giselle anymore.
So is it safe to say if it smells like, so you and Joe and Jared, shout out Joe and Jared, not here tonight, you're all going to share a room. If it smells like your room, take it.
Yeah. All of us, one smaller dude, one big bald dude, and one hairy French dude. Yes, take it.
Oh, wow. All right. We had more stuff we wanted to get into. Kyle, you're kind of my guy on mid-majors. You pay more attention to some of these small schools. Now, it's impossible to pay attention to all of them, but you know more about some of these schools, coaches, styles of play than most people I know. When you get into the tournament, and obviously a lot of teams seeded 12 through 16 are going to be from real small schools who nobody's ever heard of because they haven't been in the tournament for 11 years. What can people do to kind of do their homework and figure out who some of these schools are and which ones might be worth a wager?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it's always been fun with the mid majors, but Neil and I have been going to Vegas for 10 years, and I don't really know when it started, but probably even 5 years ago, I don't know. It just seemed a little easier to bet because they weren't talked about. So I think to your point, you don't listen to all this BS everywhere else, all these other opinions that have probably some monetary value to it. So you're really able to just watch it. And that's kind of the point to this 20-minute speech here is, if you didn't put in the time, at least during the conference tournaments, it's going to be tough for you, because you definitely, if you didn't play basketball, you're probably going to be at a disadvantage just to kind of know different schemes and how they match up. So that's something I, love to watch, is just mainly offensively, because they're college kids. Defensively, unless they're top 20, in the country, it's kind of whatever, on a game-to-game basis. So it's really just how they move the ball, how they play as a team. Someone who might have struggled in November and December, but now they're coming on. I mean, look at some of these teams that didn't even make the tournament. You're kind of like, man, that could have made some noise. And we see it every year, but I don't know, like Longwood, for instance, against Tennessee, catching 17, a lot of people, seeing Tennessee, beat Kentucky, probably just going to blindly, just lay the number. If they're betting, I mean, I can definitely see, Longwood keeping it close, just with the way they play, they can shoot, St. Peter's too, a lot of these teams, there's a lot more talent in these leagues than people, realize. South Dakota State offensively can play with almost anybody in the country. It's just defensively, they're very bad. So, there's just different ways, but for me, it's always just been watching it, just knowing I don't compare to, a professional athlete. I know nothing about, basketball, but just from what I know, just trying to pick up different techniques and how I feel other teams are going to try to, take advantage, whether it's size, interior, playing the zone, shooting over the top. I try to find some angle where I feel I can be a little more profitable in the long run.
So Neil, tell me why, to Kyle's point, why can smaller schools like Longwood in basketball hang with big boys in college hoops? Why is this unique to college basketball, where if you're watching college football, SEC teams don't lose or don't play close games against the cupcakes? Why is this unique to college basketball?
I think one of the things that Kyle and I always looked at on years past, and unfortunately with the COVID years and these years of eligibility, have sort of thrown a wrench in that. But, we used to go back and you'd always have sort of, a small mid-major, and you were talking about, I want to take like Nevada, an Eric Musselman team from, I think, like 2019 that I think got to the Elite Eight. And you were talking about, 22, 23-year-old kids that have been playing together for 4 or 5 years, right? You're a smaller program, so you can get, kids to come in as freshmen and they stick around, right? So you have a cohesive unit of 22-year-olds who have been playing together, who go and they play, just a historically, young school like a Kentucky, not this year, but historically, and you're talking about kids that maybe just turned 18 years old, right? Your body still has just that physicality, the physical difference from 18 to 22, right? And so, I think we lose a little bit of that, that so many more people had, an extra year of eligibility. But, you ask how, and that's how. You just have a cohesive unit. It's like, same, go to, your local YMCA, and you probably got a group of 45-year-old dads who can smoke a bunch of 26-year-olds, out there playing. And why? Because they all know they've been doing this for 20 years and they've got all these tricks up their sleeves, and they know exactly where, other people, their other teammates are going to be. And that's just how it happens. So, there used to be that ability to sort of find a group of seniors who have all been playing together for a really long time. Whether it's COVID, whether it's the transfer portal that sort of hurts, that ability to have long tenured teams. I don't think we're seeing quite as much of it. But ultimately, I think that's what it is. And then it also, I think the additive of the 3-ball, you can have smaller guys who are, Steph Curry, right? Shouldn't he have gone to Duke? Shouldn't he have gone to, to Kentucky? It's like, no, right? Because he's little and tiny and fragile, but you can shoot the three. So I think basketball just sort of changing its the way it's played in the 3-ball. You can have a team like the Jackrabbits, and I sort of hate to say, like, we're piling on the Jackrabbits when I think we are all sort of on the other side, and like Providence. But at the end of the day, like, the Jackrabbits do lead the country in 3-point field goal percentage, and they're shooting like 44%.
45. It's crazy.
45%. I think the second best team was 5 percentage points below them at like an even 40-ish or something like that. So, how do you do it? Yeah. How do you shoot 44% from behind, or 45% from behind the line? It's like the Jackrabbits can go out and beat anybody if those threes are dropping. I mean, that's just the end. And so, could they get bounced in the first round if those aren't going in? Yep. Could they, make the Final Four? Yep. That's the beauty of March Madness and some of these teams that you've never heard of.
Well, it makes these games kind of high variance outcomes, right? Like, for teams that shoot a lot of threes, like if they don't go in and they're going to shoot 21% from 3, like, might not be so good. But if you have one of your better shooting performances of the season and you're going to make almost 50% of your threes, you could beat somebody as a 7, 8, 9-point dog for sure. And Neil, one other thing you touched on is experience. And this is something that people can look at. You can find, like, Kyle, you talk a lot about KenPom. You can get a little, what is KenPom? $20 for a year?
Yeah, $20 for a year.
And so they have an experience tab where you can look at continuity, and you look towards the bottom of that. And it's no secret that Neil mentioned the transfer portal. Talk about one and dones. Like, a team like Duke is really inexperienced, and they're a really top rated team. But like, when these guys, like, they haven't played through a tournament together before in these kinds of games, so they can be a little vulnerable if you're playing a team that does have, like, a team like Vermont. Am I seeing this right? The Vermont starts like 4 or 5 seniors.
Yeah.
And they've been playing together forever, and they just ran through their conference tournament and beat the shit out of every team they played by over 30 points. Like, there is something to that when you have just played more games with the same dudes over multiple seasons. So these are things that are tools that they are available out there. People can find them. I want to just cut to a quick break really quick, and then we have some more stuff on the other side. Neil's going to talk about totals. Chris is going to talk about line reading. So let's come back with that. Okay, we'll give a quick Battle of the Dads recap for people who don't know what Battle of the Dads is. Our FadeU contributors here are having a handicapping competition amongst ourselves throughout the month of March. If you're interested in how that's going, wait till the end. But one thing that Neil's currently in first place, shout out Bucket Boy. And part of the reason is that he is just dialed in these first half totals. He plays first half overs, and he's really fucking good at it. So Neil, you want to talk about your process a little bit? You don't have to give out anything that you've taken a look at so far, but why is this a good bet?
So I'm hesitant to straight out call the sports books lazy, because it's not laziness. It's just simply a matter of there's so many games to go through. So, but one of the things you'll look at is, I think Vegas is very good. They are very good at setting the game lines and the game sides. And then from there, the first half lines are just basically cut and paste of a certain percentage, meaning if you've got a game that's totaled at 132, the first half is going to be 64, and then the second half is just going to be 8 points above that. And okay, if a team is supposed to score 70, or have a line of 70 in the first half, then it might be, 79 in the second half, because the thought is that, higher scoring teams are going to be just better over the second half. So it's really just a cut and paste of a percentage. Whereas, the NBA, like, you'll have lines where, they could have dramatic swings. You could have a 230 total game line, and in one game, the first half total is 119 and a half, which would mean your second half is going to be like 110. Or you could have a first half on the same 230, which is, at 112. With the expectation that, the second half is going to be 118. So I think they do a better job of it in the NBA based off of, metrics of how teams score, where do their points come from? It just doesn't seem that it happens in college basketball. And if you go through numbers, you can see teams and find teams that score a certain percentage of their points, if it's on the high end, in the first half, and their low end in the second. So just like one quick example, and I'm really pissed with the draw that this team had, because two of my wins were on two of my first half totals this last weekend were on taking this team for this exact reason, which was Virginia Tech first half overs. Why? Because Virginia Tech is 66th in the nation in first half scoring. For full game scoring, they are 158th. So they dropped down almost 100 slots from their first half scoring to their full game. Virginia Tech scores more points in the first half than they do in the second half, but their totals don't have that reflected for the first half. The game total is set what it is, and then the first half total is just set based off of the game total, right? So I loved Virginia Tech taking them first half, and sure enough, I think there was one game where the first half total flew over, the full game under hit as well, right? So you're able to find sort of some discrepancies. Now, I say I hate it. Virginia Tech is playing Texas in the first round. Texas is just a defensive muck it up. I don't know what we're going to get. It's a really tough matchup. It's such a low total, because I think the game line's only like 123. So it's going to be like a 59 point first half, which, part of me would love to take it, but I don't know. Texas worries me a little bit. But I think if you go through and you just look at where teams score their points, you're just going to find some teams that score more in the first half, on an aggregate basis than they do in the game. Be a little cautious, because you can have some teams like a Houston, Houston's just one of those teams that they just tend to run everybody. They ran everybody out the door, and like a Murray State sort of falls into this category where, because they're generally up so much at the first half, they sort of take their foot off the gas a little bit. So be a little cautious when you're looking at that. But otherwise, I think that there's some ways that you can look at some totals as far as just when teams score their points. You'll have coaches that just take the air out of the ball right in the second half, whether they're up, whether it's close, like they want to run shot clock. They want to limit the number of possessions in the second half, whereas the first half is a little more, they're fine just having it be a little more free flowing. So that's really sort of where the first half totals, and trying to find, a little bit of an edge, from the bookmakers lines.
Well, and just conversely, when you're talking about full game totals, if you're like me and you like full game totals, then you are signing up to be at the mercy of any number of late game situations, including free throw shooting contests, which can go either way, including, being up by 8 to 10 and the other team fouling, and especially if this is like a win or a go home situation.
Which teams, the tournament is, right?
Man,
like which we're getting into. So it's kind of even tougher.
Yeah. So swallow. Like in a regular season game, if you're up 11, you're probably not expecting the losing team to foul with under a minute left, under 40 seconds left. But these guys might, because of the emotion, and they're kids and they haven't prepared or been in that kind of situation. So yeah. Full game totals, you're at the mercy of some of that really silly end of game stuff that can happen in college where it goes 3-3 and then it's like, holy fuck, the total just it completely flipped. Where in the first half it's a little more,
there's less variance.
There's less variance, so those end of game situations don't happen. So
right, and I don't know if I'm repeating what we talked about in the last pod. I know I talked about it with somebody, but you're really at the mercy. There can be a dramatic swing in the last minute if a team is up by 1 point versus if a team gets up by 4 points, right? Like if a team's up 1 point, there's no fouling. You can go back and forth. Mm-hmm. And you could literally end with a minute left. You could end with no more points being scored in the game because it's less than a possession. You get just, one random 3 goes in and that one goes to 4. Yep. And you could get 12 points in a minute.
Yeah, now all bets are off.
Right? Yeah. So you're even live betting sometimes is so hard because the total is just going to be so far out there, and it can get there, right? If it stays within 5-6 points, and that's that spread, because you, like Matt said, you'll get a foul fest, but if it gets cut down, till under a possession, you could not get anywhere close to that total. And you're, if you bet the over, you're praying for overtime.
Yep. And just to give a word to the full game unders for a second, and this is probably why you like the first half over rather than the full game over. These kind of win or go home, these are high leverage, high intensity, high pressure situations for 19, 20-year-old kids.
Sure. Yep.
You look at Championship Sunday yesterday before the bracket came out. Every game goes under, all 5, all championship games, all high pressure. So, and that's with the books adjusting for that scenario, and they still all went under. So there's something to be said for the end of games. We talked about some of the silliness that happens. Sometimes these games get really tight and kids tighten up. This is what we love this shit. So good stuff. All right, let's get out of here with Chris Duke. Chris, you want to talk about what you look at? You're more of a line reader than I think most of us. You're looking at, obviously, fading the public can be a good strategy in these highly bet events like March Madness, like the Super Bowl. Talk about how you look at lines, the way you look at lines that freeze despite lopsided action. What's something that more of an inexperienced bettor how can we help them out?
Yeah, just like we were talking about earlier, lines that just don't make sense. You look at a line, one of the ones that was good the other day when North Carolina, right? Really, really solid team. They had already beaten Virginia Tech by 6 and I think 10 or 8 and 10 the 2 prior meetings in the year, but yet the line was like 2. And I'm sure everyone just thought well, UNC is going to do it again, right? Free money, and Virginia Tech ran them out. And so lines like that where they just don't make sense. And like you said, all the action was on North Carolina, but yet the line doesn't move. It stays at 2.5. So if you see a line go up to 4, then you're thinking, okay, well, they're moving it for a reason. That's a little bit scary. You're going, okay, there's a reason. There must be heavy money on that side. But if you've got a line where all the tickets, and Joe talks about this with differentials and stuff, but same thing. If you've got all the tickets on one side, yet that line goes from, I even love to see it tick down a bit. I don't get afraid of, like, when we talk about, neither does Dave, right? Consig and buckets and Kmart. I don't care if I see a 4.5 go down to 4. Oh, wham. I don't get the 4.5. I don't give a fuck. That makes me excited. That means everybody's on the team laying the 4, but my team just went down. That's great. That means, a little bit of, we don't like to overuse the RLM, but that's what reverse line movement is. It means everyone's on one side, yet the line is coming back down to the smell, and it goes closer to poo, and then the hornier I get with the poop. So love it.
The other thing you could touch on, Chris, is that these are days in the tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where, the public loves to come out and bet. And it's no secret that, you just walk through a casino, you see a lot of bright, shiny lights, and we know they make money, and they make their money because of the way the public bets. Public will bet a lot of parlays, lay the points with a lot of faves. And one thing that happens is the later games in the day, after a very long day of betting and a long day of losing for a lot of people, get a ton of action. So you want to really be wary of these late tip-off games. I'm looking at Thursday. The last 2 games that tip off are going to be, actually the last one is Kansas versus whatever scrub that they get to beat up on. UCLA Akron is a late game on Thursday. This Murray State San Francisco is a late tip-off on Thursday. And then one that I think is going to be interesting is on Friday, Wisconsin and Colgate. And earlier we talked about mid-majors, teams that people may not be familiar with. You got Whiskey, who's going to be a name recognizable school, laying 7 against a team called Colgate, that for most people is just a brand of toothpaste. Is that a good example of one where people should be a little careful? That might be like, okay, the public, some guy that just lost his ass is going to just get it all back on the school he knows and is familiar with.
Yeah, probably pick a couple 7 p.m. start games, money line them, lay the points, do whatever. Yeah, they don't know what about Colgate. They look at a 3 seed in Whiskey, even though they know the sharps like that. A lot of sharps do not rank Whiskey high. I don't know how they were the highest 3 seed or whatever, but you've got to look at stuff like that. And they're going to lay, look at it in the tourney, right? In the ACC, everyone's, I'll just take Duke money line against Virginia Tech. I don't need them to win by 5 or 6. Just I'll take them money line. Yeah, well, guess what? You just lost. So, and same thing, and I'm sure John Murray and everybody all over is happy with the Spiders. They were plus about 2 or 3. It was smell. I took them all 3 times. They covered and won outright too. Everyone probably just said, look, I'm not going to lay the 3 or 4 against Richmond. I'll just take Davidson. I'll just take Dayton. All they got to do is win. Well, guess what? Spider Cox won outright every time. So just be careful with money, the small money lines that you see that are free money. That they're that small for a reason. We know, like Neil's right. There are times in that first half they're off a little bit. Even those kind of smell. Dennis was on the over the other day. It seemed really low. I was like, fuck, he's on this Tennessee, Mississippi State. But it only went to 49 first half, went way under. So just always look at the line and see if they're daring you to take it, and just just question yourself. People are always too quick to go ahead and just place the bet. Just double talk with your friends, and ask them what they think, and get some feedback from people. Don't always just think that your lean is always correct. Go ahead and we always talk about this. Don't be afraid to fade yourself.
That is true. And take it easy on the parlays. That would be advice for people. The books can't wait for you to go and put together a 5-teamer. They will take your money and smile and say thank you very much. Just so chill the fuck out on the 5, 6, 7, 18 parlays. Sure, they're fun, but you're not going to win parlaying these games. These finishes are too crazy, and this tournament is too damn unpredictable. So don't do that. Let's see. What else? What are you guys looking forward to the most on the trip? Kyle, you start.
Having Neil drive me out while I get wasted in the passenger seat.
And I was gonna say Kyle has already offered me some filet on the drive, so that's by far top of the list.
Will you bring me some alien jerky?
If Neil will stop, I absolutely will. We're not stopping, Matt. No, we're missing what 80% of the games already as it is. We're not stopping.
I was going to say
In-N-Out Burger.
Guys, wake up earlier, baby.
Wake up.
I got Kyle and I both have dad shit we got to take care of a little bit. That's the only reason.
You get your dad shit done on Wednesday. God damn it.
I was going to say the only thing that might prevent Kyle from actually getting alien jerky is actually being abducted by aliens, which would be an even better outcome for him. If you know Kyle, you know that he would want nothing more in the world than to go hang out with the ETs. Invite him on the pod. Oh God. What about you, Neil? What are you looking forward to the most?
Man, I think just like a completely normal March Madness. Like, even though last year we had it, it was, mask up, and there were just all these caveats, and I'm just looking forward to a hopefully a normal tournament. I mean, remember we had a game canceled last year because of COVID, right? Like,
fuck, that's
I
right.
think it was it VCU Colorado?
Yeah.
I think
I forgot about that.
Right, VCU came down with COVID, and we lost the night game one of the nights. So, just looking forward to a normal, awesome March Madness with the dads.
Yeah, not having to wear masks. Like,
not having to wear masks
today. Like, that's probably the main reason why I am actually coming. That was miserable last year.
Getting yelled at. Put your mask on.
Yeah.
We have a drink, ma'am. That was a little
and it's always fun, Matt, to find the group of guys who are coming who all have what was it, who was the guys last year? Was it Virginia, the Virginia crowd that was the loudest in the book at Bally's, and then they lost their opener. That's always fantastic. I don't know, maybe it's the right group of like really annoying guys who come out for their team and are so positive. Was it the Virginia dudes? Or who
that
was
sounds
it?
Right.
But they were annoying as hell, and then they lost their first game. And that was fantastic.
That I'm gonna follow up with that with something else here in a minute. Kyle, maybe we'll find a guy who's just the most miserable piece of shit.
Like that. Oh my God, dude!
Sitting in the food court, just probably lost like $5,000.
Yeah, God, I thought that guy. Like, if he's still alive.
The characters you find, like the Notre Dame tattoo guy, maybe he'll be back. Notre Dame's in the field.
Yeah, maybe. Man, I was actually hoping SC and Notre Dame were going to clash up.
Oh my God, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Chris, what are you looking forward to the most?
Just looking forward to the doggies that'll bark. It's always fun to see like one of the teams, whether it's a New Mexico State or a Colgate or one of those 13, 14, 15, 12s, just, and everyone's just like, how does this happen? It's just always fun to see that a small school get stoked. I used to play basketball, and it's just so fun when you get a big win that you weren't supposed to get. It's just a great feeling just to play your heart out. And it's so fun to see, the bracket busters and the parlay busters just be stoked, and the George Masons and the Butlers back in the day, all those teams. So fun.
Well, shit. Even last year, I mean, there were North Texas, Oral Roberts. Who else did it last year? There were a few guys.
Multiple times.
Who was it?
Well, Matt, I mean, Oregon State.
Right? Oregon State.
Yeah. Oregon State. I mean, more surprised everybody.
It's one of the best parts of the tournament is the Cinderellas that come out. I mean, God willing, a UMBC. We were not there that year, but that would have been electric.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so Neil, something you said made me think of this. What follow up to what Neil said? Teams, fans who you would most take pleasure in seeing lose this weekend. For me, it has to be. Yeah,
go ahead, Matt.
You start.
Duke.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
I was going to say it too.
Nothing would be more amazing than watching Duke get bounced. I mean, in Coach K's final tournament, if they were to somehow lose this first weekend and not make the Sweet 16, that would be incredible.
That'd be fantastic because the Duke jerseys are going to be flowing through Vegas.
Yeah,
like they are everywhere. Yeah, I feel like them in Wisconsin. I don't know how there's so many people from fans of those schools, but those are the two schools that seem to be always most represented. And Wisconsin would be my number 2. But yeah, Duke's 1 and Wisconsin 2 to get upset first round. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, I think I know Kyle's answer.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it would make me smile, but I mean, there's always, that little bit of that UNC, but I mean, if UCLA loses to Akron on Thursday night, like I would giggle for sure. Like
you'd probably run. You'd probably run screaming for a little bit, maybe a quick lap, just giggling and laughing and cackling. And
me, like I might be in my 30s now, but when I get excited, I take off running.
Yeah, you do. If Joe was here, he would say SC for sure.
Oh, easily.
Chris, what about you? Any fucks you want to see go down this week? God willing.
God willing. Well, the best would be if Yale could pull their cocks out against Purdue, but that's a long shot. But Chattanooga against Illinois, that'd be fun. Get those big
mocks
schools out of there. Or you know what? I know they fucked us this week, but I'd love to see UAB, another Conference USA, send Houston home. So we'll see.
All right, guys, good shit. Quick Battle of the Dabs update. Just follow everybody on Twitter. We're trying to get the plays out. And, doing all right. I mean, Neil's been doing well. I know Kyle and I are kind of right around even. If the Jazz can pull this out, Kyle have a couple of nice plus money winners today in NBA. Chris, I don't know why you bet the Kings, but you did, and now you have to sweat it out, and you deserve this for betting the most embarrassing franchise in sports. I will say it. I don't think anything is worse than the Sacramento Kings. And if Fink and Kyle are listening to this, then they will agree. They are the most embarrassing franchise in any of the 4 sports, hands down, no question. And you bet them because you love smelly things.
We literally talked about just bet them first half. They blow it. They were up 20. They're up 1 now. They've scored 2 points in the last fucking 5 minutes.
That's what they will. Fink and Kyle will say Kings do Kings things, and blowing a 20-point lead at halftime is a very Sacramento Kings thing to do. So Chris, good luck the rest of the way with that. I'm sure that will be an L. And Kyle and Neil, good shit, you guys. Hopefully people can take some info from our little pod here and win some money this week. And Chris, just remind everybody what happens when you bet on poop.
Like the Kings, you need to walk back in the bar and order a shot and take it down and forget about it.
There we go. See everybody in Vegas.
Hi, Dad.
Vegas.